So I want to look at feather twig stitch, but first I'm going to show you feather stitch. Now feather stitch is made up of these little fly stitches. I have another tutorial if you want to look at that more in depth, but just as a baseline for what we're doing, I'm going to do a couple feather stitches off to the side. So we have our fly stitch. If we were just doing a fly stitch, we would just stop here, right, and anchor. But as we are doing feather stitch, we will come up to the right to make a new fly stitch. Tease this guy a little bit because my threads were separating. All right, and now I'm going to come back on the left side. And I could have started on the left and gone to the right. It really doesn't matter. Okay. And back over. Now in theory, I'm lining up these stitches. I'm not quite. I'm kind of stitching at an angle, actually. All right. So there is a feather stitch. Again, if you want to see more about that, I have another video. I kind of back it up a little bit and then discuss some variations. So, okay, feather. So now I'm going to do the feather twig stitch, which I just had to look at the name because I don't know why it's called feather twig, but we'll go for it. It is like a feather, and I guess it has like a twig on it, so I guess it makes perfect sense. Okay, so it's going to start just the same. Trying to keep even across so you can see, although I've already made this stitch too big. Okay, work in progress. All right, so it starts the same, but here's where it gets weird. I'm going to go down in the middle, and you can make it the same length as these. It kind of looks better to make it a little bit longer. It's coming up a little bit above. Now hold on here, right? Because if I don't hold on, this is going to happen, right? We don't want that. We're going to hold on because we're going to use this loop here in a second. Okay. Now I'm coming up underneath here, basically where you would go down to anchor a fly stitch. So I came up just below. I'm going to wrap here, kind of like I'm doing a French knot. I'm just transferring so I can pull, and I'm going to pull down, and that little twist is going to secure this stitch, okay? And I'm going to keep going. So now I'm going to go to the right. So you can see I'm just kind of paralleling what I'm doing over there, but I'm just adding that extra stitch with the twist. So there's the basic, and then I add my long stitch up here, the twig, I guess. And then to secure it, I'm coming up below, doing a wrap, and then pulling. You can see this time I did the wrap while I hadn't pulled the needle up all the way. You can see it didn't really matter. Let's do it again. So this time I'm coming up on the left. Hope you can see how I'm paralleling the feather stitch, why it's still considered a feather stitch. Down, up. So this time I'll do it all the way out so you can see it doesn't make a difference. I just wrap and then kind of pull this way. I don't know if it matters. Here I need to do some teasing because something happened. My strands separated a bit. Okay, that's all right now. And back over here. So it adds that extra little twig, adds a little kind of interest with this twisty, knotty looking thing that is created. I'm gonna keep the needle under this time. I feel like, well, I I guess this is a little neater when you do it like that. You don't have all that extra floss in your way. All right, and then the last one would go here. Now I actually forgot what I was doing at the beginning of this stitch. I was like, wait, how do I do it again? So don't worry if you can't remember. So I'm just going to end it by going down that. It's one of those ones where like I have to look it up because I'm like, wait, how did I do that again? Okay, so if you just came to learn the feather twig stitch, I had to look again. We're done. If you're doing this snowflake pattern and you want to see what's going on here, this modified feather twig stitch, keep watching. Basically, I think this stitch is really cool, but it was a little bit too wide for what I was doing here. I didn't want it so wide with these gaps, so I kind of modified. I am all tangled. I modified it a little bit. We'll call it a, I don't know. I'm gonna say a twisted feather twig stitch, but I don't even know if that would be the right word. All right, so let's start. Starts the same. Go down. Do our wrap. I do two. Pull. Sometimes I feel like I kind of have to pull it both directions to kind of get it. And you might need to like use your finger to kind of get in there and make it stay. Okay. Then, so I still started going this way. See how it, we kind of have this base zigzag, right? We're going to keep that base zigzag. What we're changing is the direction of these two stitches. So I'm still going to go here, and maybe if I draw it, it'll help. So you can see our base. So I'm going to go doot, 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 doot. But instead of coming up here, like I would do regularly, I went over here. I know. Why would I do such a thing? But what it does is it keeps the stitch skinnier. So what you can think of, so come over here like you're going to do it. And then what I did as a guide, I just went horizontal out from it like that. And try to keep it under our initial width, I guess you could call that. So still gonna do the same thing. Go like that. Here's my twig. So it's supposed to be wet in the center of these two. So I'm picking here, ish. And then we will do a wrap and pull. Okay. So hopefully you can see these are related, I promise. I am just changing the direction. I'm keeping the same base of zigzag, okay? Or you could always think of it as I'm starting to the left, but my initial stitch goes to the right. You can think of it that way. I don't know what, I'm not sure either makes a whole lot of sense. But hopefully in watching this you'll see, and then you'll see the guidelines on the pattern. All right, so here we go. The left, I'm going to go out just in a parallel, horizontally there. Hopefully you'll see when you look at the guidelines what's going on. So originally I had drawn actual line guidelines, but because of this twisty thing that happens, sometimes the stitches aren't like perfect. and so you can't always match the guideline like you want. It does help if you really push that twisty bit tight to the fabric there. All right, so here's my next one. I kind of shrank these stitches at the bottom, didn't I? The ones at the top are really big, and then this one's like, oops. Okay, I wasn't paying attention. Let's try that again. Only so much talking can happen. All right. I forgot to do this stitch. So I'm kind of, you know, I drew it so it was up here, but that's just like going to be too tight. So I'm coming down a little bit. And going down. Doing this. Let's just do one wrap on this one. So that's fine too. If you want to do one wrap instead of two. I did two on all of these other ones, but here you can see, I think I actually do like it with two wraps better, but you don't have to, is what I'm trying to say. All right, so here's my last one. Here's my twig. Come up from my wrap. Holding that knot down. This time I'm holding it down like I'm doing a French knot. I don't know if that's going to help or not. Not really. Maybe it did. I don't know. But again, like I like to kind of, you know, pull it both directions, and you can kind of push it down, and that'll help. And then to finish, you would just go down to anchor